I still remember the day I was supposed to become Mrs. Adrian Cole. The sun had barely risen, but my heart was already racing faster than ever before. My white dress hung by the window, glowing softly in the morning light, and the smell of fresh roses filled the room. Everyone kept saying it was going to be the happiest day of my life, but little did they know, that morning, as the guests arrived and the orchestra tuned their instruments, I was already gone. Vanished. Without a note, without a word, without an explanation. People said I ran away because of cold feet. Others whispered that Adrian had done something terrible. But the truth was darker than anyone could have imagined. I didn't run away because I wanted to. I disappeared because I had no choice. That morning, I received a message that changed everything. A message that shattered my perfect little world in seconds. It was a photo, blurry. Almost unreal, but I knew that face anywhere. It was my sister, Emily. The sister who had been missing for 3 years. The sister everyone believed was dead. And in that photo, she wasn't only alive, she was terrified. Behind her stood a man I had never seen before, holding a note in front of the camera. It said, "If you want her alive, don't marry him." My hands trembled so badly that I dropped my phone. My bridesmaid, Hannah, rushed in asking if I was okay, but all I could do was nod and force a smile. My mind was spinning, my heart breaking. Adrian had been my rock, my everything, but suddenly I couldn't tell what was real anymore. What if the man behind Emily was connected to him? What if marrying him meant losing her forever? I stared at my reflection in the mirror, the veil over my face blurring the tears that fell. I knew what I had to do, even if it meant destroying my own life. I took one last look at the dress, the ring, the dream, and I walked away. No one saw me leave. By the time the ceremony started, I was already gone, and my story had just begun. I didn't have a plan, just a desperate instinct to follow the only clue I had, that photo. I slipped into a cab still wearing my dressing gown, my makeup half done, and my heart pounding so hard it hurt. The driver kept glancing at me through the mirror, probably wondering why a bride looked like she was running from a crime scene. I told him to take me to the old train station on the outskirts of town, the one that hadn't been used in years, the one where Emily was last seen before she vanished. Every bump on the road made me feel like I was being chased, and maybe I was. I checked my phone again, zooming in on the background of the photo. There was a broken window, a rusted metal sign with half the letters gone. I knew that place, the abandoned textile factory near the station. When I arrived, the world felt dead silent. The air was heavy with dust and memories. I called out her name, Emily, but only my echo answered back. I took a few shaky steps inside, the floor creaking under my heels, my wedding hair now a tangled mess. My hands were shaking as I opened my phone's flashlight, and then I heard it, a faint sob. I froze. It was coming from behind one of the old machinery rooms. I pushed the door open, but the room was empty except for a phone lying on the floor, still warm. My phone buzzed again. A new message. Too late. I felt the blood drain from my face. That's when I realized someone was watching me. I could feel eyes on my back, the kind that make your skin crawl. I turned around slowly, but the hallway was empty. I ran, tripping over debris, clutching my chest as my breath came out in gasps. When I finally reached the exit, a black car sped past me, tires screeching. For a second, I saw a silhouette in the back seat, a woman with blonde hair. A hand pressed to the window. Emily. I screamed her name. But the car disappeared into the distance, leaving nothing but silence, and the echo of what could have been my last chance to save her. I don't remember how long I stood there, frozen in the cold wind, watching that black car fade into the mist. My legs gave out and I fell to my knees, my white robe now streaked with dirt and oil. It felt like my entire world had been ripped apart in a single morning. The wedding, the life I had planned, the man I thought I knew, none of it mattered anymore. All I could think about was Emily. She was alive, and someone didn't want me to find her. I grabbed the phone from the floor, the one that had been left as a cruel breadcrumb, and noticed something strange. The lock screen wallpaper wasn't random. It was a photo of me and Emily as kids, sitting by the lake behind our childhood home. My throat tightened. Whoever sent that message knew us personally. This wasn't a stranger. I decided to go to the police, but the moment I walked into the station, my phone buzzed again. Another message. Tell the police and you'll never see her again. My hands went cold. I turned around and walked right out. I didn't trust anyone anymore. For the next few days, I stayed in a cheap motel, far from the city. I didn't sleep. I barely ate. I just stared at the screen, waiting for another message. On the third night, I finally got one. Midnight, Pier 7, come alone. My heart leapt and sank all at once. It could be a trap. But if there was even a chance Emily was there, I had to take it. The pier was almost completely abandoned now, a forgotten stretch of wood and water under a moonless sky. I walked carefully, the boards creaking under my feet. Every sound felt louder in the dark, the crash of waves, the whisper of wind, my own heartbeat. Then I saw a small figure standing at the end of the pier. I ran, tears blurring my vision, whispering her name again and again. But when I reached her, it wasn't Emily. It was a woman wearing my sister's necklace and a note pinned to her coat that said, "Stop looking, or she disappears forever." My knees went weak as I read those words over and over, the paper trembling in my hands. The woman in front of me didn't speak. She just stared with hollow eyes, as if she'd been forced to be there. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but something about her silence told me she was as trapped as I was. "Who gave you this?" I whispered, my voice breaking. She shook her head slowly, tears pooling in her eyes, then turned and ran into the darkness before I could stop her. I stood there, frozen, with the note still clutched in my hand and the necklace glinting faintly under the pier light. That necklace had been Emily's favorite. Adrian gave it to her for her 17th birthday. The thought made my stomach twist. Why would Adrian's gift appear here, now, 5 years later, in the hands of a stranger connected to her disappearance? I couldn't accept it. I needed proof. I needed the truth. I went back to the city the next morning, hiding beneath a hoodie and sunglasses as I approached Adrian's office. The place was buzzing with reporters and police. My sudden disappearance had turned into a scandal. I slipped in through the back door, knowing every corner of that building from the months I had spent helping him set it up. His office smelled the same cedar wood, coffee, and that expensive cologne he always wore. On his desk, I noticed a file labeled Project E. My heart stopped. Emily. My hand shook as I flipped it open, scanning through documents and photos. There were pictures of the same factory I'd been to, bank transfers to unknown accounts, and surveillance shots of me from the past week, even though I'd been in hiding. Adrian had known where I was the entire time. My blood ran cold. I didn't even hear the door open behind me until a voice said softly, "You shouldn't be here, Lily." I turned around slowly, and there he was, Adrian. My fiancé. The man I was supposed to marry 5 years ago, now standing in the doorway with that same calm smile that once made me feel safe. "You were never supposed to find out," he said quietly, stepping closer. "But since you have, we need to talk." My breath caught in my throat as he closed the door behind him, the soft click echoing like a gunshot in the silent office. I backed away slowly, clutching the file to my chest. "Where is she, Adrian?" I demanded, my voice trembling. His eyes softened, the way they used to when he wanted me to trust him. But now that same look felt like poison. "You shouldn't dig into things you don't understand," he said calmly, walking toward me with his hands raised as if I were a frightened animal. "Where is my sister?" I shouted again, this time louder, angrier. His expression changed just for a second. A flicker of something darker passed over his face. "Emily was never supposed to get involved," he said, lowering his voice. She was curious. She found out about the money, the factory, the research. I tried to protect her. Protect her? I snapped. By faking her death? By threatening me? His jaw tightened. It wasn't supposed to go this far. The people I work with, they don't leave loose ends. He took another step forward, and I instinctively grabbed the letter opener from his desk, pointing it toward him. Don't come closer, I warned. For the first time, I saw something raw in his eyes, not guilt, but fear. Lily, listen to me, he said quickly. If you keep looking for Emily, they'll kill her. They'll kill both of you. I froze. She's alive? My voice cracked on the words. He hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but she's not safe, and neither are you. I wanted to believe him, but my mind was spinning. Everything about him felt rehearsed, like a man trying to control a story before it collapsed. Why send me that photo then? Who's they? I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the window behind me as if expecting someone to appear. You need to leave now, he said, his tone suddenly urgent. Go far away, Lily. Forget everything. Before I could respond, there was a sound like glass shattering, and a small metal object rolled across the floor. Smoke exploded around us, thick and suffocating. I dropped to my knees, coughing, eyes stinging. Through the haze, I saw shadows moving, 2 figures dragging Adrian away, his muffled voice shouting my name. And then everything went black. When I woke up, the world felt like it was spinning. My throat burned from the smoke, and my wrists were tied to a cold metal chair. The room was dimly lit, concrete walls stained with years of dampness. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear the steady drip of water and the faint hum of machinery. I tried to call out, but my voice came out hoarse and broken. Then a door creaked open, flooding the room with a harsh white light. 2 men entered, both dressed in black, faces hidden behind masks. One of them carried a small recorder, the other held a tablet showing a live video feed. My stomach twisted when I saw the image. It was Emily. She was alive, her face pale and bruised, sitting in what looked like another room just like mine. You wanted the truth, the man with the recorder said, his voice low and distorted. Now you'll get it. I struggled against the ropes, tears blurring my vision. Please let her go, I begged. She's done nothing wrong. The man ignored me and turned the recorder on. A grainy video began to play on the wall behind him. It was footage of Adrian standing in the same factory where I had first found the note. He was talking to someone off camera, his tone calm, almost businesslike. No one can trace the money, Adrian said in the recording. She thinks it's charity work. As long as she stays quiet, we're in the clear. Then the camera turned, revealing Emily terrified, shaking her head. You're lying, she whispered. This isn't about charity, it's about trafficking. My entire body went cold. I couldn't breathe. Adrian's voice in the recording changed. Harder now. You shouldn't have seen that file, Emily. The footage cut off, leaving only static. The masked man turned off the recorder and leaned closer to me. Your fiancé wasn't who you thought he was. He worked for us, but he fell in love with you, and that made him weak. My mind screamed at me to deny it, but deep down, I knew it was true. Where is he now? I asked through tears. The man tilted his head slightly. Gone. And soon, you will be townless. You do exactly what we say. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear his words. The air felt heavy, toxic, as if the truth itself was suffocating me. What do you want from me? I whispered, my voice trembling. The man crouched down in front of me, his gloved hand gripping my chin. We want you to finish what Adrian started, he said softly, almost kindly. You have access to his accounts, his documents, his passwords. You'll transfer the remaining funds to us, and in return, we'll let your sister live. I wanted to spit in his face, to scream. But the thought of Emily fragile, broken, still alive, kept me silent. If I do this, I asked, forcing the words out. "You'll release her?" The man's eyes, dark behind the mask, flickered with amusement. "If you do this correctly." He stood, signaling to the other man, who untied my wrists but kept a firm grip on my shoulder. They led me into another room where a laptop was waiting on a dusty metal table. The screen glowed with Adrian's old company logo. My hands shook as I began typing, entering the codes I remembered from years ago. Every click felt like a betrayal, every keystroke like another chain tightening around me. I transferred millions into an offshore account under their watchful eyes, my mind racing with panic and guilt. When the final transaction was complete, the man closed the laptop and gave a satisfied nod. "Good girl," he murmured. "Now about your sister?" He turned to the other man, who whispered something I couldn't hear. Then he looked back at me. "She'll be free soon." But his tone had changed. It was colder, final. I didn't believe him. "I want proof," I said, standing, my voice stronger now. "I want to see her." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the man smiled, a cruel, deliberate smile. "You already have." He stepped aside, revealing a door slightly ajar. I pushed past him, running inside, and froze. There, on a small cot under a flickering light, lay Emily, but she wasn't breathing. Her skin was pale, her wrists bound, her eyes half open as if caught mid-plea. The scream that tore from my throat didn't sound human. It was the sound of a heart breaking beyond repair. I fell to my knees beside her, my shaking hands hovering over her still body. "No, no, no," I whispered, my voice raw and cracking. Her skin was cold, her lips blue, but her face, God, her face still looked so much like the sister I'd grown up with, the sister who used to braid my hair before school, who promised we'd never let the world change us. I pressed my forehead to hers, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. Behind me, the man spoke in a detached tone, as if reading from a script. "She died last night. She was weak. But you did well, Lily. You gave her peace." His words shattered something inside me. I turned, my eyes burning with rage, and grabbed the nearest thing I could, a rusted pipe from the corner of the room. "You liar!" I screamed, swinging wildly. The pipe hit the wall as the men ducked back, shouting orders in a language I didn't understand. I didn't care. I swung again, tears blurring everything until I didn't know what I was hitting anymore. Suddenly, one of them lunged forward, slamming me against the wall, his forearm pressing hard against my throat. "Enough!" he barked. The world dimmed around the edges. But before I blacked out, I heard a sound of faint cough. My body froze. It came from the cot. Emily. She was alive. I gasped, and the man holding me hesitated just long enough for me to grab the pipe again and strike him across the face. He fell back, screaming, blood pouring from his mask. I didn't wait. I rushed to Emily, shaking her gently. Her eyelids fluttered open, and for a second she actually smiled. "Lily," she whispered. "They said you wouldn't come." "I'm here," I sobbed. "I'm taking you home." But before I could lift her, the door burst open. More men stormed in, shouting, guns drawn. I grabbed Emily's hand and ran toward the back exit, praying it wasn't locked. Bullets cracked through the air, splintering the walls. Somehow I managed to shove open the rusted door and drag her into the freezing night. The rain poured down in sheets, mixing with our tears and the blood on my hands. I didn't know where to goonly that we had to keep moving, no matter what it took. The night swallowed us whole as we stumbled through the forest behind the compound, the rain drenching us until we could barely see. Emily was weak, her steps unsteady, and I half carried her through the mud, whispering, just a little further, we're almost safe." I didn't know where safe was anymore, but I had to believe it existed. Every crack of thunder felt like a warning. Every flash of lightning revealing shadows that made my heart stop. At one point, I thought I saw headlights in the distance, vehicles sweeping through the trees, searching. My chest tightened with panic. "We have to hide," I whispered, pulling Emily behind a fallen log. We crouched there, shivering, as the sound of engines grew closer. She leaned her head against my shoulder, her breath shallow. "Lily," she murmured, "if we don't make it, promise me you'll tell the truth." "Don't say that," I begged. "You're going to live." "We both are." She smiled faintly, her fingers brushing mine. "Adrian tried to protect you," she whispered. "He wasn't like them. He was trying to stop it." Her words cut through the rain like glass. I wanted to ask her what she meant, but before I could, the lights disappeared, swallowed by the storm. We waited a few minutes before moving again, forcing our way through branches and mud until we reached an old service road. My phone was dead, my body numb, but in the distance I saw a faint orange glow a house. I pushed Emily forward, half dragging her until we reached the porch of a small cabin. I banged on the door, desperate, terrified, praying someone would open. After a few seconds, it creaked open. An older woman stood there, wrapped in a shawl, her eyes widening as she took in our drenched and bloodied state. "Please," I gasped. "We need help." Without a word, she stepped aside and let us in. The warmth of the fire hit my skin, and for the first time in days, I felt a flicker of hope. But that hope vanished when I looked at the mantel and saw a framed photo Adrian, standing beside the same woman now offering us blankets. She noticed my stare, her expression tightening. "You must be Lily," she said quietly. "He told me you'd come." The air left my lungs in a single sharp gasp. You know Adrian?" I managed to whisper, my voice trembling. The woman's eyes softened, but there was something unreadable in them, something that made my stomach twist. "I'm his mother," she said, setting the blanket on the table. "He came here 2 nights ago. He was hurt but alive. My knees nearly gave out." "Alive?" I repeated. "Where is he?" She hesitated, then glanced toward the back room. "He's gone to turn himself in. Said he needed to make things right before they took you." Her words hit me like thunder. Adrian had survived. He knew I was being hunted, and he was trying to fix what he'd done or maybe what he couldn't undo. I sat beside Emily, who was half awake now, her skin pale but her eyes alert. "Mom," she whispered weakly to the woman. My head snapped toward her. "Mom?" I repeated. The woman looked at Emily, tears filling her eyes. "I tried to protect both of you," she said softly. "But Adrian's choices ruined everything." My mind spun. "You're saying—" "Yes," she interrupted. "Adrian is my son. And Emily, she's my daughter too." The room seemed to tilt. "Half siblings," she added quietly, her voice shaking. "Different fathers. But he never knew until it was too late." I felt the world collapse around me. The man I had loved, the man I was going to marry, was my sister's brother. My breath came out in short, panicked bursts. "No," I whispered. "That's not possible." The woman reached out as if to comfort me, but I backed away, my chest burning. "He didn't know, Lily," she said desperately. "Neither of you did. But when he found out, he tried to protect you both. The people he worked for threatened to expose everything if he didn't cooperate." I stared into the fire, its light flickering against the storm outside. Everything suddenly made sense. The lies, the fear in his voice, the way he vanished. "Where is he now?" I asked, barely audible. She looked away, her shoulders trembling. "He left this," she said, handing me a small envelope. Inside was a single note in Adrian's handwriting. "I'm sorry, Lily, for everything. Take Emily and disappear. They'll come for me, but they'll never find you." Outside, sirens began to echo through the valley, and I knew our story wasn't over. It was only beginning again, this time with the truth.